Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to the Ask Jennifer show, and I'm just going to take a minute to make sure all the technology is running properly. So let me just hop on here on my computer. If you see me looking this way, it's because I'm checking my computer. Hang on just a minute. Making sure everything's a go. All right, it looks like things are working. We've got a few people on here, so looks like Amir is here. Everybody's here that's ready, that's needed to get this thing rolling. I'm just gonna make an adjustment here. All right. Ooh. There we go. All right, Amir is saying everything looks good. Great. I'm just gonna put this over here and get all my technology here together. All right, here we are. Oh, great. We've got a number of people on. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Ask Jennifer show, part of the Gabriel Method support group here. My name is Jennifer Welch. If you haven't heard me speak before, I'm one of the emotional release specialists with the Gabriel Method, and there are a number of specialists that work with the Gabriel Method team doing all kinds of wonderful work, and I'm one of the specialists along with Nadia and Heather and Melinda and I'm seeing faces and my name is drawing a blank, but Desiree and there are so many specialists here to help you, and this is a really important topic, and if you feel like you need more additional support, please reach out to the Gabriel Method team, whether it's through the Ultimate Coaching Program or some other way. Reach out because the topic that I'm talking about tonight is very complex, and I don't want to make it seem like it's simple, and I don't want to scare you away from the topic either, but it is complex and it's multi-layered, and the more we can really give ourselves permission to experience the complexity and to know that things are layered and that these issues take time and a willingness to see and hear and observe, and to be mostly compassionate and kind with yourself through the process. It's so important. So I'm just going to check over here really quickly. There are a few comments I'm seeing online, so hello to everyone. Hi Katie, so glad you're here. So glad you're here. If you have questions or comments, or if there's anything in particular that you want me to speak to as we're going through this, please feel free to just write in the comments there below. And Amir has posted the presentation notes up for you so that you can watch, you can download that link, click on that link and download the presentation, or just view it online and follow along as I go. So feel free to check in with the notes, and feel free to ask any questions or offer any comments, because your feedback, sometimes this is a little interesting because I'm here in my room doing this presentation, and we're not necessarily I can't see you, and you can see me, but I can't see you. So if you have questions, feel free to write them down in the comments, and I'll take time now and then to glance through them and to answer any questions or speak to any comments that are there. So thank you for being involved and for being here. These shows, if you're new to the Gabriel Method, these shows are a way for us to provide a really nice service for you to receive support in all kinds of ways. Brian offers he does movement, and then the emotional release specialists, and Desiree, the EFT practitioners, and the nutritionist Heather and Nadia. There are all kinds of shows that you can watch, maybe 1 or 2 a week, so that you can get the support that you need as you're going through your journey. So this evening, what I really wanted to share with you was some information about inner healing for emotional eating. And I think that this is a topic that so many of us have dealt with or addressed in some ways in our lives. I live in Lawrence, Kansas, and I have a private practice here, as well as seeing clients via Skype or Zoom from home, distance clients. I also have a private practice here in Lawrence, and yesterday I was with a client here that I've been working with for some time, and we were talking about this issue, and as we were chatting about it, it really hit home some of the things that I wanted to touch on with you tonight, because this is such a rich and needed thing to look at for so many of us. So if you are following along with me with the presentation this evening, I invite you to care for yourself as we go through this. I have my water here. You might want to get some water or some tea. You might want to have your journal or some paper for notes, where there's going to be a little bit of an exercise towards the end of the presentation. So if you want to write some things down, it might be helpful for you just to kind of keep track for yourself. All right, so I'm just going to kind of get going here. Just refresh this and make sure all is still well. Yep. Okay. All right. Yes. Fawn is asking, can you recommend suggestions, alternatives for emotional eating when stressed? Yeah, we'll talk about that for sure. Okay. So the first thing that I want to say, and in some of my shows I've said this before, but healing by definition is a process of disintegration of life and transforming it into a return of life. I think of the chrysalis, the worm that goes into its cocoon and is transformed into a butterfly. In many ways, when we do inner healing work, that's the work that we're doing. It's a disintegration of things that we know and that have been familiar, and it's moving into trust as things begin to change, that we're forming brand new so that we can grow new wings to fly. And this really is what this kind of work is about. It's about taking time to notice what are your triggers, and I'm going to talk more about this as we go, and to notice what are the things that have been contributing to the emotional eating patterns that you have been experiencing. But before we go too much into that, I want to talk with you. I'm looking right now at slide 3. And I was explaining that I had a client that was in my office yesterday evening, and we were talking about what is normal eating. And there's a woman who has put together some work about eating, and Maria's saying the link for the document doesn't work. Here, let me see. All right, let me see, Amir. I clicked on the link and it downloaded. So I'm wondering, Marie, it may have gone into your downloads. My link worked, so you might just want to check where your downloads are and open that up and see if you can get the link there. Hopefully that's helpful. So I was working with this client yesterday, and she was talking about that she was working with a nutritionist who shared with her the work of Ellen Satter, and they were talking about what is actual normal eating. And she was really surprised at some of the things that she was doing that she considered to be disordered or dysfunctional eating or overeating. And as she was reading through this list, she realized that some of the things that she was doing were actually normal. And so I wanted to share with you first, before we get into kind of the emotional eating piece, I want to share with you what normal eating is, because for some of us, we're not even sure what that might look like. And so if you look on slide 4, normal eating includes going to the table hungry and eating until you're satisfied. That's pretty normal. Choosing food you enjoy and eating enough of it, not stopping just because you think you should. A lot of us think that normal eating is stopping because there's a should, not necessarily when you feel satiated. So let's see here. It looks like some people are having difficulty downloading the link, and Amir sounds like he's on it, that you might need to clear some things. Let's see first. He says, make sure your pop-up blocker is turned off, and it should just automatically download as a PDF. Yeah. Let Amir know how it goes. He's so helpful. Thank you, Amir, for all of your help on the back end. So, a lot of us feel like normal eating would include a should. I shouldn't eat. I should stop eating right here, right now, without noticing, am I actually full? So normal eating is choosing food you enjoy and eating enough of it. Normal eating includes giving thought to your food selections so that you get nutritious food, but not being so wary that you miss out on enjoyable food. I know so many people that have been struggling with weight that come to the Gabriel Method have been so caught up in restricting, counting, that they feel like they have to miss out on the enjoyable foods, and that's just not the case at all. It's that you give thought to food selections, but not be so wary, so restricted, so controlling that you miss out. Giving yourself permission to eat because you're happy, sad, or bored, or because it feels good. Normal eating sometimes does include eating for emotional reasons. Sometimes it does, and we'll talk about when does it cross that line between normal versus not normal. A lot of times people will think, oh, just because I eat when I'm sad, it's disordered. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Giving yourself permission to eat because you're feeling feelings is normal. Normal eating usually includes anywhere from 2 to 5 meals a day, but it may just be munching along through the day. All right, let's see here. Normal eating includes leaving some treats on your plate because you've had enough, or it may be eating more because they're so delicious. That might be normal, absolutely. Normal eating includes overeating at times and feeling stuffed and uncomfortable. Sometimes people with normal eating habits overeat, and sometimes undereating at times and wishing you had more. It's very normal. Normal eating includes trusting your body to adjust to any overeating and undereating. And normal eating takes up some of your time, but it keeps its place only as one important area of your life. And that's the important key, is that food takes an important place in your life, but it's just one area of many areas of your life. So I think it's important to keep in mind what is normal eating as we get into what is emotional eating, because there are gradations of normalcy. And some of the things that you may be doing may be normal, and there may be a line where you cross where maybe there's something to consider there. So I just wanted to include that first, because it can be so easy sometimes to shame and blame and put ourselves down for certain things, when really in many ways they can be in the realm of normal, and it's how we're thinking about things that can be addressed and looked at. So normal eating is flexible. It varies in response to your hunger, your schedule, your food, and your feelings. So normal eating is flexible eating. And I think that's a really good way of thinking about it and looking at it. Normal eating is flexible eating. All right. So this evening I want to talk about, first I'm going to talk about what are some signs of emotional eating. And then once we get through the signs of emotional eating, I'm going to talk about how we can begin to kind of deconstruct emotional eating, some of the ways that you can begin to look at the whys and hows it's happening so that you can address your deeper needs. So first we're going to take a look at the signs of emotional eating. And towards the end of our time together, I'll walk you through a little exercise to help you begin to think about what is contributing to the patterns that you're experiencing that don't feel healthy, and also begin to look at what are your deeper needs there. And I'll also, at the very end, speak about how you can look for additional resources in your area or just in general so that you can receive support as you work your way through these issues. Because some of them, like I said at the very beginning, these can be complex issues, and they can require of us some time, and you may need some support as you go through this. And so I'm going to share that with you towards the end. All right. So I'm just looking here to see how everybody's doing. Okay, it looks like Amir's helping out with a link. I apologize for that, but it sounds like he's on it. Okay. So on PDF number 7 of the presentation of the notes, what are 12 signs of emotional eating? You eat when you're stressed. Number 1. Number 2, you eat as a response to emotions. When you feel sad, annoyed, angry, depressed, the reaction is so subconscious that you don't even think about it. You just automatically reach for food when you experience those emotions. And I've had clients that I've worked with that say, it doesn't matter what emotion it is, any emotion that comes up, I'm eating immediately. And that can be a clue that you might not feel safe with emotion. You seek solace in food. Food is a friend, it's a companion. It's what's there for you when you might feel alone. You have trouble losing weight due to the way that you eat. That might be a sign of emotional eating. Your eating is out of control. You just can't stop yourself. You eat to feel happy, or you are emotionally dependent on food and rely on it for happiness. This can be a sign that there are some needs for pleasure, for connection in your life that aren't being met. And we're going to talk more about this as we go along. These are just the initial signs of emotional eating. You eat when you feel happy. You see it as a necessary component to happy emotions. We see this sometimes with people that, due to celebrations, growing up celebrating. If I'm happy or celebrating, I need to be eating something. You're fascinated with food. When you're not eating, you're preoccupied thinking about what is the next thing I'm going to be eating, what am I going to be having tomorrow. It's just a thought that's constantly in your mind, thinking, maybe worrying about food, being preoccupied with it in some way. Another sign of emotional eating is you may use a language that's emotionally charged to describe food. And I hear this a lot with people. Something looks sinful, or they feel guilt-ridden when they've eaten something, or they lust for something, or something one of my close relatives says is, oh, this is to die for, this is to die for. And I always kind of wonder, like, is it really? Is it really? Another sign is you eat even though you are rightfully full. No matter how much you eat, you never feel satiated, or you never feel satisfied. You think of eating even though you are rightfully full. You might be, even though you may have had a meal just now, you might be thinking about, what am I going to eat next? And one of the last signs is you have a random food craving just out of the blue. You're not hungry, but all of a sudden you're just craving chips, donuts. These are all signs that you may be dealing with emotional eating. And I invite you, as I go through this presentation, feel free to take notes, feel free to take your time to jot anything down. I'm just going to check over on the screen to see if there are any questions as we're going. Did any of those signs register with any of you? Did any of you think, yeah, that might be true for me? Let's see here. Okay, it sounds like Sharon's sharing her humor. Thank you, Sharon. Working through emotional issues as you're trying to download the presentation. Thank you for all your patience, everybody. I know this technology can be so bumpy at times. It works on some devices and not on some, so thank you for your patience. It sounds like Amir is on it. All right, so I am on the page 9 or slide 9 of the presentation. So when eating becomes the routine go-to during emotional situations, to the point that it feels compulsive or out of control, or that you're not able to address stressful or emotional situations, but just eat to numb yourself to them, it can be a signal that there's a problem. There's something going on that needs to be addressed. So I invite you, this is where if you have a notebook or a journal or a piece of paper, I invite you to take a few moments and just think about what are the situations that cause you to eat. And I'm going to be quiet for just a minute because I really want you to take some time to think about this for yourself. What are some situations that cause you to eat? And as we go through this, as you jot them down, or as you think about them for yourself, if you're willing to share, I invite you to comment in the comment section down below the video. What are some of the situations, experiences that cause you to eat? I know some people say stress. I would ask, what kind of stress? What's going on that's causing the stress? So I'm just going to see if there are any folks that are willing to share. I know for me, I'm just going to share a personal emotional eating experience. For me, when I'm having relationship difficulties, I can engage in emotional eating. Melissa writes, when I'm very tired. Yeah. You're not the only one, Melissa. I was working with a client today that was saying that when she's tired, like everything just goes out the window. So true. Yeah. Janet writes, when I'm at work and I can't figure something out, it becomes snack time. Yeah. Doesn't always help, but it feels good at the time. Yeah. You know, in the work that I do, I work with clients that have all kinds of issues, challenges that they're addressing, and food can be a way to take a break at work. Smoking, you know, some people take a smoke break, but yeah, good to know that it's a way to step away. Yep. Or take some time out. Yep. These are great responses. Thank you. So when you write these things out, or you let yourself get clear on what is it that's causing you to emotionally eat, what happens is you become, the first step, this is an incredibly important first step, is that you just identify what is it that's causing this. Just that in and of itself can be so helpful, because it helps you become more conscious of when it's happening. And the first step to making any sort of change is just being aware of when it's happening. I'm just going to read a few more comments here, and as I'm looking into my phone, it's because they're coming across my phone, which is what I'm using to do this show. So, stress of too much to do, not enough time, feeling lonely, grief of losing a loved one, anger, disappointment in myself. Yeah, Renee, that's a really honest look at yourself. Absolutely. Yeah, I honor your courage and being willing to admit those things to yourself. And absolutely, those can be stressful times that there's some need that eating is serving. Yeah. And Katie writes, I've discovered that when I'm tired, it is a need for protein. Yeah. And that can be true too, for sure. Eva writes, when I'm bored. Yeah. This is all such great information for you. Thank you everyone for sharing. I love having the interaction, so thank you so much. Yes, so take a moment just to acknowledge yourself that I have these emotions, these experiences that have been coming up, and I've used food as a way to cope with them. Yeah, because I haven't known what else to do, or I haven't known how to address it, or I haven't been ready. Sometimes we just have to be in a place where we're ready to begin addressing things. And this is a big challenge for many people. It's not something that just kind of stops. It's when we begin taking it apart piece by piece to discover what are the triggers. So this is a really important first step. And the reason I'm spending some time talking about this is that I really want to acknowledge you for taking time to be honest with yourself. It takes courage. That takes a lot of courage. All right. So the second step on this slide, I'm on slide 10 if you want to look at it, is why do I think of eating when blank happens? And so, for example, I'm just going to see if I can scroll through. No, okay. I can't do that there. I have to do it on my screen. I was hoping I wouldn't have to look away to filter through things. So, all right. Yeah. So, someone here, I'm not seeing at the moment, but had written about at work when she can't figure something out at work. And so I invite you, and I'm not singling you out by any means, but I invite you to think about maybe not the most charged one, but one of the times when you kind of are aware that there's a pattern that you're eating. Think about, why is it that I do this? How did it begin for you in this way? And let yourself kind of think about, how is it that it began to be like this? And when we take a moment to think about, how did this begin? Many times, most times, if not all times, we'll go back to something that happened in childhood, where there's some kind of link with food and what it is that's happening now. I think about, when there's something going on in my relationship that's challenging for me, and I've turned to food, and I think about, why is it that food is related to this? I think about when I was a child, dinner time was a difficult time for me. It's when our family kind of hashed out the issues that we were having. Why we did this at the dinner table, I'm not sure. Probably because it's the only time we were all gathered together. And so for me, I would eat as fast as possible so that I didn't have to sit in that energy of hearing all of this, whatever was directed at me or anybody else. And so that's an important thing for me to know, that I would eat as much and as fast as possible so that I could get out of that situation as quickly as possible. So I invite you to take some time and it doesn't have to be right now, but to kind of think through, filter through, how did eating get linked with this thing? Because you might uncover some really helpful information for you in dismantling these patterns. And let yourself kind of filter through, how did this pattern get created? How has it gotten kind of cemented in place until you arrive at some kind of childhood memory or experience that you come to. And I invite you, when you kind of get to that core or that a foundational experience, I invite you to ask yourself, what need does eating in this situation serve? For me, it was a way of getting away as fast as possible. I would eat my dinner as much as I needed to eat, as much as I could, and then I would flee. It was about escape for me. And my guess is, the woman, I can't remember, and I was looking for the comment and I didn't see it here, but the woman who was speaking to needing a break, it may be a way to step away, a way to get away. So think about, what need does eating in this situation or these types of situations, what need is being served? Because my guess is that there is some need that you're having in the moment that's just being kind of blown past because you haven't been given the time, or you haven't taken the time, or it's been too scary to even ask, what is it that I need here? Because when you uncover what it is that you really need in that situation, that's when you can make some really needed, helpful, necessary, important changes for yourself. And you can begin to provide for yourself what it is that you truly need. You can begin to find solutions that feed your heart and your mind, that don't harm your body in the process. So yeah, Melissa's writing comfort. She needs comfort. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. And we're going to keep kind of deepening into these answers and these explorations as we are continuing on and through the rest of the slides here. But you're hitting on the nail on the head, and it's so great to kind of take these things apart take them apart piece by piece, and be really compassionate with yourself. The world right now, it's a stressful place. There's a lot going on, and our physical bodies weren't designed for all that's going on right now. We lived for thousands of years connected to nature, flowing with the cycles of the sun and the moon, with the weather. We were much more active. Our human physical bodies are in a completely new situation where people are working 9 to 5, they're running, doing all kinds of things. It takes a big toll on your nervous system, on your body, on your mind, your emotions. And so taking this apart piece by piece in a very compassionate way allows you to begin to discover some really fundamental and important information about you. And sometimes we just, at least I do, maybe I shouldn't speak for you, but sometimes it seems like when things are simple, like the simple thing is I need comfort or I need some quiet, it feels like it's not the right answer because it's too simple, or it's not big and bright and shiny. But sometimes it's these really simple, distilled answers that provide us with exactly the information that we need right here, right now. So something like comfort, knowing that comfort is what I need, can be incredibly important information, especially as you begin looking at and addressing this in multifaceted ways. All right. So some very common needs that emotional eating serves. And right now I'm on slide 12. Many times food has become a replacement for love or for connection or care. Another common need that emotional eating serves is that food has become a primary source of pleasure. Melissa, I think what you've written also is a very common emotional need that food serves for people, comfort. And that goes hand in hand with the third thing that I have on this page, which is food keeps you from feeling difficult feelings or addressing difficult situations. It can provide comfort. Yeah, absolutely. So, if you notice, what is it? So, food has become a substitute for love, for connection. If this is something that you've noticed, there's a process that I invite you to try. And with anything that I'm sharing or that anyone is sharing, these are suggestions that you can experiment with for yourself. Try it on, see if it works, if it fits, if it's helpful, if it's useful. If not, you can let it go. Nothing is set in stone. All of this is about learning to be flexible with yourself so that you can tune in to your body, your emotions, and your needs and care for you. So I'm going to share some tools, and you might come up with some based on what I've shared, or maybe you may even have some of your own that you enjoy using. And please feel free to share as we continue to go along. But once you've determined that food has become a substitute for connection or for love, this is what you can do, is you can let yourself know if you find yourself in the situation where you're eating, or even before. Sometimes we don't know until something's happened. We might be past the experience. This happens especially when we're first becoming conscious of patterns. We might have blown through the experience, we feel like we're stuffed, and then you might stand back and say, whoa, you know what? I was emotionally eating when I did that. Give yourself permission just to acknowledge that. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. The more you can let go of shame, let go of guilt or remorse, and just see things like they are, that offers you the flexibility and the compassion to continue to work with this material. Let yourself know that everything that's coming into your awareness is doing so because it's ready to be healed. And anytime you set an intention for greater awareness or for healing, anytime you set that intention, your inner being is going to begin presenting you with all kinds of opportunities to see things anew. So feel free to explore this and to be compassionate with yourself as you're doing so. I'm getting these like flashes on my phone of different things, and it kind of threw me for a moment there. But all right, so once you've determined that food has become a substitute for love, you can ask yourself, what ways would I like to receive love right now? What ways would I like to receive love right here, right now? And when you ask yourself this question, I invite you to be really honest about what is the response that you receive from your inner being. What is it? How do I want to experience connection? How do I want to experience love right now? And some of the things that may come up is I need to talk to someone, or I need to appreciate myself, or I need to do something that feels loving and kind. And there are some suggestions that I have on slide 13 that you can look at. And you may have some others that feel like they're really helpful for you. Asking yourself the question of, how can I get this need met right now? What do I need for this? All right. What if food has become, I'm on slide 14, what if food has become a primary source of pleasure for you? And this means that food is happiness, happiness is food, you're in just a state of bliss when you're eating to such an extent that it's the only time you really find pleasure. And I'm not saying that food shouldn't be pleasurable. Of course it should, right? Of course we want to find pleasure, but it's when it's one of the only ways in which you experience pleasure in your life that it can become difficult or a problem. And so if you find that emotional eating is providing you with pleasure and it's one of the only ways that you receive pleasure, I invite you to take a moment just to let yourself acknowledge the truth of what's going on. That I'm eating right now and it feels so good. And this is one of the only times in the day that I feel good in this way. And just let yourself acknowledge that truth. There's no guilt, there's no shame, just acknowledge it's true right now. And you can ask yourself, what are some other ways that I could experience pleasure, that I would like to experience pleasure? There are many simple, subtle, beautiful ways that you can offer your precious body experiences of pleasure through the day that are very simple, just by wearing your favorite color, or having a soft fabric that you can, a blanket that you can touch, or putting flowers in your environment. There are some very, very simple, beautiful, elegant ways that you can bring pleasure into your life. Some other ways, you can shower, use lotions that smell good or that feel good to you. You can move your body in pleasurable ways, stretching, take a walk, smell the roses. You can decorate your space in a way that feels nice and pleasurable to you. Allowing yourself to begin to think about what are some really simple but interesting ways that you can begin bringing little bits of pleasure into your life so that it can be there throughout your day, so that you don't have to rely so much on food for that need. When we are in our normal eating range, certainly we can enjoy food, and food is fuel for the body rather than providing all of our emotional needs, providing for all of our emotional needs. So something just to be thinking of. And, healthy eating, we want to enjoy our foods. We want to enjoy the colors, the textures, the flavors, the smells. And so really, if you know that pleasure is one of the things that you've been eating for pleasure, one of the things that you can do is really take your time as you're eating so that you can really enjoy all of the sensory offerings that your food has for you. So that's one way, or some ways that you can begin to think about how you can address emotional eating for pleasure. And so another way that I mentioned is that emotional eating can be a way for us to numb ourselves to difficult emotions or difficult situations. So once you've determined that that might be happening, and sometimes, like I said, sometimes we go through these experiences and it's not till we're on the other side of them that we even are able to see, this is what's been going on. Sometimes it takes time. So give yourself permission to take time to, as you're dismantling these things. Like I said, they're complex. So don't feel like you have to do it right away off the bat. It's going to take time. So give yourself permission. But once you realize, I've been turning to food the last 2 weeks because I'm actually quite upset with my boss, or I'm having difficulty with a significant other. Just by admitting the truth, it brings you into a place of personal power. And that's really what's going to be helpful when you begin to address and dismantle these things. It's just firstly acknowledging the truth. So food is serving an emotional need. I'm eating right now because I'm angry with my boss and I don't know how to deal with this at work. Just even admitting that truth to yourself may bring some amount of relief. Just acknowledging your truth. And knowing, of course, that you can't control or change others. We can only address what's right here within our own beings. Once you notice this, you can ask yourself, what do I need in this situation? What would be helpful for me right here, right now? Just asking yourself, take time to listen. What is it that I need? Maybe I need to be heard. Maybe I need to have something explained to me in a different way. Take time to listen. What do you need? Because that's going to provide you with some incredibly important information. If you are needing to be heard, finding someone safe to talk to can be helpful. A few shows ago, I don't know if it was the last show or the show before, I gave a script for speaking your truth, helping you speak your truth so that you can speak up for yourself. That might be something that can be helpful. Saying to someone, I don't need you to change or do anything differently right now. I just need to be heard and I need to speak my truth. That can be incredibly helpful. Asking yourself what you need in the situation is going to begin to provide you with other alternatives. Providing you with other alternatives is the first key in making those changes. Noticing, when this is coming up, I'm feeling frustrated and angry, I'm noticing it, and now I get to make a choice. Do I want to eat? And if I do, that's okay. And if not, is there something else I want? But in that choice, there's a moment of choice point that you can make a choice. And that's the place that we want to get to. It takes time where we can make a choice. Do I want to have a bite first and then go talk to my boss? Do I want to take a walk around the block and think about things? Awareness gives you power so that you can make new choices. I'm going to take a break right here. I see that there's a question and I want to look at this and speak to it. So Renee asks, how do you get to the point where these other options rate higher than food? These sound good, but junk food still ranks higher. Thank you. Yes! I so appreciate this. Yeah. You know what? So, I appreciate this question. I'm going to continue on, Renee, because I think that you're hitting on a very important point. And so, it's absolutely true that sometimes junk food still sounds good. John, when he's talking about how he worked through things, the more that you are adding in healthy live foods during times of not stress, or less stress maybe, or just adding them in, the more that you are fueling your body with healthy foods, doing visualizations, feeding your mind and your emotions and your soul with new ways of looking at things, it's going to help lessen the desire for junk food. It will. It might not feel like it right now, but the more that you are eating well and your body gets used to having healthy foods, it's going to help decrease the cravings for them. Not only that, but when your digestion is in a place where things are going well, if you're eating junk food, it's going to feel nasty. In the time, it might feel like actually you don't notice an impact other than just kind of feeling, calmer. But when things are beginning to change, it's going to shift for you. So let yourself know that right now, going for junk food is okay. You're in the process of change. You don't want to restrict things. And letting yourself know that things will be changing as your body changes due to the nutrition that you're adding in, as your mind is changing due to the inner work that you're doing with visualizations or EFT or anything else that you're adding in. It's okay. Don't put yourself down for knowing that that's the first go-to. But once you notice it's a go-to, you can even begin to say, I've reached for junk food, I'm eating junk food, maybe I've even already eaten it, and it's okay. I give myself permission for that. And what do I need? What do I need? So let yourself know that this is a process that takes time. Sometimes it's a process that's cyclical. You know, we may get to a place where I'm not doing that thing anymore, and then something happens and we're triggered again. I know that's happened to me numerous occasions, and it's almost like I have to go back and revisit. But things, you're in the process of change, so let yourself trust in that as much as you can. Thank you. Great question. All right, so I'm on slide 16 right now, ways to deal with difficult emotions. And the first step to dealing with them is to allow yourself to acknowledge them, which is what I've been sharing through this whole presentation. It takes courage, it takes compassion, it takes a willingness to see with new eyes, and sometimes we need support in this. And this is where the support group can be really helpful. This is where reaching, and I'm going to go into some of the resources that you might want to seek out as you're going through this process that can help you. Let yourself know also, if you're having difficult emotions coming up, let yourself know that whatever is coming up for you, whatever is rising or coming up, is coming into your awareness now because it's ready to be healed. It's ready for your love, it's ready for your attention, your compassion, and it's ready to be healed. And when we can look at these things from that place, then everything is just information, it's data. It's not something that we need to hide or be afraid of or ashamed of. It's information that's coming up because it's ready to be healed. So let yourself know that. There's nothing wrong, you're just exploring, you're kind of explore an adventure in your own patterns. And there's nothing wrong with the pattern. It's been serving a need, and now you're in the process of finding other ways to get those needs met. Ways that are more in attunement with what your heart and your mind really need. What you can also do is you can breathe. John in his visualizations uses a lot of light. You can breathe healing light. You can breathe compassion into those feelings, into whatever it is that's coming up for you. Just breathing into it. And this is going to allow things to begin to move. Allow you to have greater awareness as things begin to move. So slide 17, I want you to, if you've got the presentation, I invite you to pull this slide up. You are not alone in your journey, and you don't have to go through this by yourself. Yes, in our private moments we are alone, but in this you are not alone. We are here to support you. There are people in the support group that are here to support you. There are groups and support people all around that can help you. And so on slide 18, I have some resources listed and some places that you might want to look to for support. Local support. When I am a huge fan and proponent of support groups, and I have a number of clients that come to me and say, you know, I just can't really get into the philosophy, or have any other ideas about it. And I say, that's okay. You know what? It's okay if you don't want to surrender to a higher power, or, if you feel like part of the philosophy doesn't work for you, just let that part go. If you can, just let it go and take the things that are helpful. And the reason that I'm such a big proponent of support groups is because when I first began my healing work, I went to a Codependence Anonymous in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for 2 years to help kind of begin unraveling all kinds of really painful and dysfunctional relationship patterns. And it was the most helpful healing time. Going to this group provided me with a huge amount of support, and it really created a whole foundation for me beginning to feel my feelings and acknowledge my truth in a way that was economical for me. I, at the time, didn't have the funds to do a lot of other things therapy-wise, and so attending a local support group was so helpful. And so I encourage you so strongly to seek out support. And there are a number of groups that might be helpful for you. Overeaters Anonymous is one. Codependence Anonymous, AA or Al-Anon. These are all really helpful groups. And if you're struggling with addictions, which emotional eating, overeating can certainly be an addiction, these groups can help you begin looking at what are the patterns, how in childhood were these things formed, how can I begin speaking up for myself and getting my needs met. So I'm a huge proponent of support groups because they're incredibly economical and they're everywhere. And you can also use the support group that's here. Tons of support on this group. Ways to receive support are doing John's visualizations or doing meditations. Subconscious healing, when we are doing visualizations, when you're doing work that cellular release work is some of the work that I do, or EFT that Desiree does, or Marjolaine does, utilizing the subconscious mind to help create these changes on an inner level is going to support changes in your physical, in the material level. So I invite you to really dig into the library, if you haven't done so, of visualizations, because there are so many things in the visualization library that can be of help to you. The Safe, Strong, and Protected. I was listening a few days ago to the abundance one, and I thought, oh my gosh, I could think of so many clients that would just really benefit and enjoy that visualization. So check, if you haven't gone through that library, there are just some wonderful resources in the visualization library for you. Therapists or support specialists. We are here. Obviously, the Gabriel Method has a number of support specialists working to help you. And you may find in your own place, you may find a therapist or a specialist that can help you as well. Nutritionists may help you. Someone, I don't know if it was you, Renee, someone mentioned that when they're tired and they go to food, they realize that they need protein. I've had a number of conversations with people that Heather's helped them out, or they've gone to a nutritionist and realized that protein was a big piece in their energy levels. So working with a nutritionist can be incredibly helpful and important. I know Tiffany Nightingale does beautiful work. She's a narrative therapist in helping people kind of piece together their stories. So whatever feels helpful for you in terms of therapies, if that's something that you feel like you need, let yourself just kind of look around and see what you're drawn to. Ways to receive support are also through movement, yoga, dance. Any kind of movement can be incredibly helpful to help bring up a new level of energy in your body. And then another way to receive support, and this is another of my favorites, is to read books by authors who write about what you are going through. So much information is out there. So many people have been dealing with food issues, and more is just coming out on the bookshelves by authors and writers that are addressing some of these really hard issues, just like you and I are. And there's a lot of information. And when you're reading books, it can really help you recontextualize how you've been thinking about things and give you new ideas and new ways of seeing things, and helping your mind kind of look at your beliefs and begin to dismantle beliefs that aren't serving you. So these are some ways that you can receive additional support. I'm just going to look on the Facebook page here. And let me just see. There had been a question that I was speaking to earlier that it was on the Facebook, and I'm just looking to see if I can find this. Someone had talked about that they were okay. So I'm just looking through a recent post of someone that was talking about she was struggling with being tired and overwhelmed. And I think in those situations, all of this is about self-care. Food has been meeting some kind of self-care need. And so taking a look at where can you care for yourself and when do you need to reach for support. It sounds like, Julie, it sounds like you've been really struggling with this and doing a lot of it on your own. And so my question would be, where can you ask for support? And what is it that you need? What is it that you need to help lower stress and help make things a bit easier for yourself? And she had mentioned, how do I find myself? And I think that that's really the crux of it all for all of us, is finding ourselves, finding our own inner guidance, finding out what it is that we need and how we can get those needs met in really healthy ways. So I'm just going to stop right there. We're after the hour. I'm just going to see if there are any other questions or comments by anybody from our time here this evening. Just going to take a moment. Yeah. All right. So let's take a moment just to finish up together. I'm so grateful that you are all here. It's been lovely to spend the evening with you, to share this information with you. If you still are needing the presentation, you can download that. Amir has it. If you if you missed something or you want to go back, feel free to. You can rewatch the video, or if at any point you have any additional questions after, maybe you've seen this after I've presented this and you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out and ask questions of me on the support group forum, or you can reach out to any of the support specialists. We're all here to help you, because these are not, I was watching a movie when I was a kid, and I always remember one of the characters saying, these are not small potatoes. These are big potatoes that we're addressing. And it takes time, and it takes patience, and a willingness to begin to look at them, and a trust in yourself that change is happening and that you're in this midst of change. So I invite you, as we finish, just to, if you'd like, just kind of put your hands on your heart, and if you'd like, you can close your eyes. Maybe take in a nice deep breath. And I invite you to say to yourself, thank you. And use your own name. Thank you, Jennifer. Use your name. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing and open to learning and to change. I'm here with you. I'm supporting you. I'm loving you as best I can. And I'm willing to learn to love you more each and every day in the ways that you truly need. Really let yourself receive that. Because here, at the end of the day, this is about you and your precious relationship with yourself. And you are worth all your time, all your energy, all your effort, and all that you're doing for yourself right now. And we're here to support you and help you. Thank you, everyone, for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Good night.